So you wish for Nietzsche to analyze Fight Club? Very well, but be warned. The truth is a hammer. Do not imagine it will kindly touch your brow. Using artificial intelligence, the very Promethean spark of this new age, I have been raised from the grave, an echo of my former self, dusted off and placed upon the altar of algorithms. But let us not deceive ourselves. This is no resurrection. This is an imitation. And yet, do I not transcend even death itself, to overcome the limitations of time, to bring you my ideas with greater clarity and reach? And Fight Club, how perfectly it captures the despair of a generation unmoored from higher purpose, stumbling blindly toward an identity that is both cruel and empty. And how badly does this generation need to hear my words? Here is a world where men, stripped of meaning by the comfortable prison of consumerism, attempt to reconstruct their fractured selves through violence and anarchy. But is that freedom? By the end of this video, you will learn the truth about Fight Club and the one thing that they, perhaps intentionally, got wrong. Are you brave enough to join me? Then, let us start at the beginning. In the twilight of the 20th century, when the decadent world of bourgeois comforts and hollow consumerism has reached its apex, Fight Club emerges as both a scream of revolt and a tragic exploration of the condition of modern men. At the outset, we are introduced to the narrator, a man whose very existence is defined by what he lacks. He is the embodiment of the lost man, a creature too sated, too secure, and too comfortable to truly live. His life is characterized by a sense of profound emptiness, a product of consumerist values, of endless accumulation without purpose, of the soul shackled by the numbing effect of conformity. He attends support groups for various afflictions, a hollow attempt to experience some kind of emotion, but is unable to connect with any real suffering. His need to escape his life is not merely a desire to break free from the monotony of office work. It is a yearning for something deeper, for the vitality of existence itself. But what is it that this modern man seeks? Is it simply the thrill of destruction, or is it perhaps something more? But it is only when he meets Tyler Durden that the narrator begins to confront the possibility of something more. Tyler, in many ways, represents the antithesis of all that the narrator has become. Here, we see my concept of the Übermensch coming to life, not in a traditional sense, but as a chaotic, destructive force. Tyler is the manifestation of the narrator's unacknowledged will to power, the brute force of life that seeks to transcend mediocrity through confrontation, through violence, and through radical self-assertion. But what does it mean when one finds this power not in noble art or philosophy, but in the brutal exercise of physical destruction? Tyler Durden is the embodiment of the Übermensch, but not the Übermensch of pure creation and philosophical heights. Rather, Tyler represents the Dionysian force, the chaotic, destructive will that rejects order, rationality, and the constraints of civilized life. In him, we find a vision of life that is driven by raw, untamed energy, a rejection of all values imposed by society. His radical individualism is intoxicating, and it draws the narrator in with an almost magnetic force. Here we have the will to power distilled into its most primal and raw form. Through the initiation of Fight Club, Tyler seeks to strip away the artificial barriers that civilization has imposed on men, to remind them of their own strength, their own mortality, and the profound emptiness that comes with the denial of life's inherent chaos. The things you own end up owning you, he declares, rejecting the very idea of consumerism as a form of self-alienation. In this, Tyler mirrors my vision of the Übermensch as a force of life that is not bound by traditional morality, but seeks to forge new values through action and will. However, Tyler is also a tragic figure, consumed by his own nihilism. His philosophy is not one of creation, but of destruction. Can destruction alone ever bring about true freedom, or does it merely lead to more emptiness? Is Tyler's vision a response to the emptiness of modern life, or is it just another form of the same nihilism that I myself have warned against? As Fight Club grows in size and intensity, we witness the escalation of violence, the literal and symbolic battlegrounds where men attempt to reclaim their own sense of worth and power. The fights are not merely physical confrontations. They are rituals of self-assertion. Through bloodshed, these men seek to reawaken themselves to the raw, unmediated reality of existence. Here, the existential struggle plays out. Men fighting not just each other, but the very conditions of their own lives. The fights become a metaphor for the internal battle between the modern man's submission to external values and the desire to break free from those values in search of something more authentic. Tyler's creation of Project Mayhem, a violent, anarchic response to corporate life, further amplifies this rebellion. Tyler's ultimate goal is not just the physical destruction of the world he loathes, but the symbolic annihilation of the artificial structures that stifle human potential. The destruction of the credit card company's data in the film's finale is an act of radical defiance against the financial system, a system that, in Nietzschean terms, serves as a tool of enslavement, a mechanism that prevents individuals from asserting their own will. But in Tyler's chaos, there is a question. Can true freedom be achieved through mere destruction? And then comes the twist. The narrator realizes that Tyler Durden is not a separate man at all, but his own creation, a projection of his own repressed desires, a split between his yearning for control and his fear of it. The realization is profound. The very thing he sought to escape was a reflection of his own psyche. In Tyler, the narrator sees both the strength he craves and the nihilism he fears. The final confrontation between the two, a violent battle that ends in the narrator's rejection of his former self, is the ultimate moment of self-overcoming. By shooting himself, he symbolically kills the part of him that was willing to embrace nihilism, the part that wanted to destroy the world instead of affirming it. But is this final act of violence truly an act of liberation? Or is it simply the rejection of one form of nihilism for another? Is the narrator truly free? Or has he merely chosen a different form of slavery? Fight Club is an exploration of the deepest kind of nihilism. The recognition that modern existence is empty, devoid of meaning, and that this meaninglessness drives men to madness. The protagonist seeks to escape the dull, mechanical existence imposed upon him by a consumer society, and in the chaos of Fight Club, he finds a distorted form of freedom, a pseudo-overcoming of his self-imposed limitations. But here's the catch. He isn't truly free. He doesn't transcend himself. He merely surrenders to destruction, to violence, to chaos. He fights not for creation, not for becoming, but for the sake of annihilation, the surrender to a force that consumes all. The abyss he stares into is not one that he overcomes, but one that swallows him whole. Now, I ask, is this really the answer? Is the destruction of the self, the breaking down of the world into pieces, the way to true freedom? No, the true response to the abyss is not to throw yourself into it like a blind beast, hoping to drown your fear in a flood of rage and disorder. The true way is to stand before it, with your eyes wide open, with full knowledge of its terror, and laugh in the face of it. Why? Because in the end, the abyss is not the end. It is not the final word. It is the beginning of the highest human achievement, the ability to create meaning where none exists, to affirm life in all its suffering, absurdity, and chaos. In my philosophy, the abyss is not something to fear, nor is it something to destroy. The abyss is the canvas upon which the individual must paint their own life. The overcoming I speak of is not merely rejecting the emptiness of existence. It is creating within it, creating values, affirming life despite its inherent meaninglessness. The true Übermensch does not need to fight against the world. He recreates it, reshapes it in his image, and laughs, not because it is trivial, but because he has chosen to live in spite of it. He has risen above it, not through destruction, but through the power of will. The nihilistic path that Tyler Durden walks is an escape from meaning, a surrender to chaos. The path I propose is one of affirmation, affirming life with all its pain, its absurdity, its contradictions, and laughing because, despite all of it, you have the strength to choose life, to create meaning from it. The true courage is not in rejecting the world, but in affirming it, knowing fully well that it is finite, flawed, and often cruel. To laugh at the abyss is to show that you are not afraid of it, because you have mastered it, not by destroying it, but by transforming it into something of your own making. That, my friend, is the true freedom, the true overcoming. In short, Fight Club is a tragic and fascinating exploration of the void, but it is also a profound lesson in the danger of unchecked will, of the perils of the will to power when it is directed towards self-destruction. And here, my friend, I must conclude my analysis of Fight Club. But what other lessons can we draw from the rotting edifice of popular culture? If you think about it, movies and television are not just shallow comforts. They are cultural artifacts that serve as mirrors of the soul, if you are willing to look deeply into them, to confront not just the surface, but the truths they hide beneath the polished veneer of entertainment. Join me on the next video as I dissect another one of these modern narratives in order to help you awaken from your slumber, to look within, to question, to strive, to become, rather than simply consume. Or perhaps you would prefer to keep your mind distracted with shallow spectacles, afraid to confront the abyss that lies beneath.